One. Go. Hey everyone. So, growing up, we probably all heard of Smokey the Bear. Only you can prevent forest fires. Well, in a couple ways, Smokey had it wrong. Not completely, but I'm here to try to convince you that fire actually can be a great ecological tool. It can be beneficial for certain wildlife. It can even be beneficial for like complete ecosystems that are fire dependent. It can control invasive species, and it can help human communities that are prone to big wildfires. That's me doing a prescribed burn. So does anybody know what a Kirkland warbler is? It's a small little bird. It has one tiny little spot where it lives in northern Michigan, and it lives nowhere else. And it lives under small jack pines. And when people started to suppress fires, all these jack pines started to grow really tall. There was no new jack pines. They only nest under the small ones. And this bird was starting to go to extinct. There was maybe 400 breeding pairs left at one point. And this is because all the trees are growing up, but also the pine cone of the jack pine has a really sticky sap that only opens up when it's under extreme heat conditions, such as a wildfire. But we don't want wildfires. We want controlled fires that don't harm stuff, but low-level fires that will burn the brush. It might open up a little bit of sunlight, open up those pine cones, let the seeds out, start growing smaller trees that can be sometimes used for Christmas trees, but ideally in the wild, that make suitable nesting habitats for the Kirkland warbler. And when they did do some prescribed burns, got those smaller trees, the numbers went up and it's no longer an endangered species. Another reason to do that is in southern Michigan there was a habitat or an ecosystem called an oak savanna. And an oak savanna had these giant oak trees with big branches and more open with tall prairie grasses in between these giant open grown trees. The main tree would have been a bur oak. Its Latin name, scientific name is Quercus macrocarpa. Macrocarpa essentially means thick skin, is kind of how it translates. They don't get touched in a fire. The oak leaves burn hotter, and so it's like a plant that wants fire, is made for fire. And if we can do that in a controlled way, then we can help these ecosystems out. The prairie grasses that would grow around the edges of this, where it's they have, the prairie grasses can be as tall as you, and its roots are just as deep. They're evolved for fire, and if we have some prescribed burns, then they'll come back. Here is how you do it. You kind of just make a break and have a little controlled area with your water packs, and afterwards you can, you do this in the spring, and it knocks some stuff back, but that all is going to grow back really, really lush. Open it up a little bit, and you can get an oak savanna. It can knock down invasive species. Garlic mustard creates a monoculture, and if you do a burn, it sets that back. But the stuff that has those deep roots are still going to grow back just fine. And it gives it a way to compete. And it makes your summertime job doing invasive species removal a lot easier. If I'm cutting off the flower heads of an invasive thistle, and we have a prescribed burn, I might have to cut 10 instead of hundreds of them, and I don't get all pissed off. In the wetland, you can actually have prescribed burns as well. That'll set stuff back that is invasive in there as well. Phragmites, stuff like that. So it can be used in lots of different habitats around here. Also, there are a lot of places that have giant wildfires. Year after year, we've suppressed fires, and it just like adds to the fuel load. So then suddenly when there is a fire, it can become a giant like super fire. So if you want to protect structures and stuff, you can get rid of that fuel load by doing smaller controlled burns that will remove that litter, those sticks, those things on the ground. And if you combine that with other techniques, it can maybe save your house. So hopefully I've convinced you that there's some reasons to do that. Thanks.